Hi, Stephanie. Welcome to Power Woman Wellness. How are you today?
Hello, Lahana. I'm so good. It's Valentine's Day and I'm just feeling love. Very happy to be here.
Yes, me too. We'll start off with tell us what you do, who are you, tell us more about your career, all the goods.
Totally. Okay, so my name is Stephanie Thoma. I'm the author of a book called Confident Introvert. It's behind me right over here. It's based on my experience hosting over 1,000 networking events in San Francisco, touring around a workshop called Networking for Introverts. And since then, I've gone on to build out various communities. And I call myself a community strategist these days. I really love putting together blueprints that help people bring the kind of people that they want to connect with together personally or professionally. So yeah, an event I just hosted last night, Women Creating in Real Life Community. I just love the art of gathering and the serendipity of not knowing who you'll meet when you enter a new space.
I agree. Yes, if any of you know Stephanie in real life, like I told you before we started recording, you are such a great connector of people. And I remember when I first did like my first little connection, I think I was networking in, I don't know, but it was one of the virtual groups that I'm in. And it felt so good, like connecting, like, oh my gosh, I see a need. I know a person I can help you. Like that just feels so good. So I can see where you like love doing this, but I love that you mentioned you're a little bit of an introvert. So where does that come in? Like, how are you able to sustain meeting in real life, creating these events, but you're an introvert? So I know your social battery, gets gets a little low very easy.
Yes. And do you identify as being more introverted, extroverted, ambiverted in the middle?
Yes. That
Ambiverted.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Okay.
I naturally want to say I'm a little bit more introverted because I do like I had two
Because you're a
Galentine's events
homebody.
yesterday. I am spent. I was like, I'm not going anywhere for the rest of the week. So I don't know. What does that say about me?
I mean, so I would actually say most people are ambiverted, where different situations either deplete your energy or give you energy. That's
Yeah.
basically being an introvert doesn't mean that you're shy or that you lack self-esteem. Those things can be correlated, but they're not synonymous at all. So I always like to
Mm,
begin with that introverts are more likely to get their energy from solitude than other social activities. And an example of that, I kind of did something a little different yesterday than I normally do. So typically, I have something called a solitude sandwich before an event, like before public speaking or doing something like that. And what that means, actually, okay, I'm going to just share a quick story before I share the exact definition so I can show you instead of telling you what a solitude sandwich is. So I gave a workshop and someone asked me after. So I'm curious. Um, why someone would give a talk on introversion when you are so obviously extroverted. And you can imagine receiving that question. You're like, oh, so I asked a question in return, and the question was, well, what do you think I was doing before this event? And they said, well, maybe you were at another event, maybe you were, hanging out with friends. And I said, well, actually, I was reading in the lobby. And then I asked, do you know what I'll be doing after this event? And he said, well, probably an after party. And I was like, well, nope, that is not the plan. I'm going to be doing what I call now the daily routine one. We can go into that later, but like a bedtime sort of ritual of meditation, reading, and narrative therapy, writing, and yeah, just kind of some solitude and then going to sleep. And, that is a solitude sandwich in the sense that the pieces of bread, they can be,
mm,
really thin pieces of bread. They can be Texas toast since we're in Texas these days. And that's your solitude. And
mm.
it sandwiches the activity where you want to show up full of energy and really present. And I would say
I love that. I
I can
love that analogy.
feel, I can feel the days when maybe I forget this, because it's like it's
Yeah.
so simple, it's so easy to do. You intentionally carve out time to be by yourself and so yesterday I did an event and I thought, you know what I'll do? I'll co-work for the day since I'm hosting at a space that has a co-working space right next door. Then there's the event space, and I actually didn't account for the fact that the co-working space was pretty lively, and
Mm.
it wasn't jam packed with people or anything, but I'm a little sensitive to energies around me, and if people are having side conversations, if people are cracking a joke out of nowhere, I'm just like, my ears are perking up. I'm like, oh, okay. And it's not like I'm easily distracted. It's just like, okay, like
Yeah.
I'm just taking it in. And, this can be correlated with introversion as well, being a little on the sensitive side with like noises, sounds, lights, all that. And I realized, ooh, typically before an event, what I would do is be in a more solitary space because I'm going to be in a room
Mm.
with so many people later. So that was just like a nice little reminder, keeping me humble that, yeah, I need to do my own solitude sandwich technique.
I love that. That's like a little kind of routine in and of itself of what you do. And it makes total sense. And I agree, I totally agree with you. Like if I know something's coming up with, I don't know, yeah, a networking event or something where I have to be like on, I definitely find myself before, of course, after, but even before, just trying to be mindful of that. And just making sure that my days aren't crazy packed or whatnot, which just sounds insane because it's like one networking event, why do you need? But some people just need that. And so I really love that the way you put it, because I think I naturally lean into that. I naturally do it, but I love the whole sandwich idea. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. That explains
Thank you.
exactly what I
Yeah, I know
do.
it's like, hey, whatever you want that filling to be, peanut butter, PB&J, some hearty meat, whatever you want. Just get creative
I,
with it.
I love that. Okay, so you have your business and I know you love to travel. So like how do you take care of yourself in the morning to start off your day being productive or even maybe a restful day, but what are some of your non-negotiables in the morning?
I get at least 8 hours of sleep, and I give myself a 9 hour sleep opportunity to get the eight
Mm,
hours. So I do my best to have a very consistent waking schedule where, it's waking up, let's say around 8:30, going to sleep around 11:30.
uh-huh.
And then I do before I am an advocate of breakfast, but I typically wait to have my breakfast until I've exercised. So every other day I'll work out by going on a jog, 3 to 5 miles first thing. And then to keep it simple, I typically have a vegan protein shake every morning after my workout. And then maybe every other day, it's high intensity interval training. Right now, I'm taking classes at Brass Ovaries here in Austin, which is a pole dancing
Oh,
studio. So that's like a new workout to me.
fun. So
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, I think it's great to start the day being active because, I've done it, and especially working from home, it's really nice to have that flexibility where it's like I don't need to be in an
Yeah.
office, by 9 a.m. or anything. That would not work out with my 8:30 wake schedule anyway. So yeah, just like prioritizing sleep, prioritizing not even thinking about it, just going on a jog and telling myself, like, even if I am really tired, maybe didn't sleep that well, it's like, okay, maybe the jog gets to be a little slower, but the point is
Yeah.
to build that trust with myself and do it. And then have the protein shake to keep it fresh. I have like 3 different flavors, and I'm like, ooh, what do I
Nice.
like today?
Yes. My
you know
vibe.
and I love my blender bottle, but I got one of those little things. What's it called that you can just press a button and it mixes, like a
Oh,
handheld?
like a
That's literally what
frother?
it is.
Well, I
Now
call
I'm in love. I'm like, I like this better than my blender bottle.
Oh man, I usually just use a like blender. Even though
Yeah,
I have looked at ones that were maybe like a little bit smaller because I have the Vitamix, which I love, but and I use it. It's just it's huge for like a single serving.
right.
But I also, when I was gonna go get something a little bit smaller, I was just thinking, but I have the Vitamix. Then what do I use the Vitamix for? And so I'm like, ah, whatever, it's fine.
I mean, hey, it does the
Um,
job.
Yes, exactly. I know I was just about to ask you before you told me like your hours, but I was going to ask like, oh my gosh, how do you do that with networking events? But it makes sense that you're able to sleep in a little bit. Because having kids, I have to be up at 6, at the latest. So 5:36 to get them ready for school. So that is the one downfall of networking events is because they usually end at like 8. So by the time I get home and then I'm like doing my routine, it's like 10 before, I can get into bed, but then I got to like relax and maybe watch a show and just totally like start to chill out. And then it's like, yes, 11, but then I have to get up at like 6.
Yeah.
So that's the only downfall of like, oh, with networking events, I'm like, dang it. Like, cause it's normal, like after work, 6 to 8, but it's like, oh,
Mhm.
that just makes my late night. And then I really only get like 6 hours of sleep on networking events. So
And what's interesting is, yeah, I got feedback last night. Someone's like, it was great, but it would be better if it was 7 to 9. And I'm like, I'm sure you would say, could it be 5 to 7 instead? So it's
yes,
funny.
please.
Everyone has their schedule.
Yes, that too, especially if or you're going into the city. Like when I go to downtown and something starts at 6, I like just want to cry because I'm like, I'm smack dab coming from suburbia into the city with all the work traffic,
Mm.
and it's so chaotic. So yes. I try to like figure it out and work, but I always usually know if I have a networking event, I might have to not go as hard in my workout. I may have to skip a
Mm.
workout and just do more gentle walking and just like shift my routine based on that. But it's so great because you get to meet women like you, and it's like, so you got to do it.
I mean, and I love that we met through an online women's community. And then we realized, wait,
Oh
we're
my
also in
gosh.
another community.
Yes.
That's, I know, it's so funny. We met up and then we're like, hold on. And actually, no, that was before I became a member of this in real life women's
Yes.
community in Austin. And
Yes.
then I joined and I'm like, it's so cool, how that
Small
works.
world.
And,
Small world.
and like making time for one-on-one connections, I really love that, because
Yeah.
like even going to events, my goal is always to make one new friend. It's not about
Yeah.
like give everyone my business card, connect with everyone
Yes.
on LinkedIn. And, because to me, that's not really relationship building. That's
Yeah.
just a large quantity of humans that you don't really know anything about that like
Yeah.
state you're connected to. So yeah, it's I go for that like click feeling and sometimes even online, being able to be like, wait, we're in this community, we were drawn to this for a reason, we're in the same city,
Yeah.
what's going on? And especially there's value in being discerning of events, but also, for myself and also for clients, I'm like, hey, just make sure that you are going to networking events. I would say once a week as maintenance.
Yeah.
And then if you're actively, preparing like to, let's say, make a career change or something, then probably at least twice a week.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have twice a month, but I've been killing that. That's my minimum is twice
Hey,
a month.
well, if that works for you, then that's
Um,
custom to you.
but it's this year was like, okay, I am coming. Not that I was ever in a shell, but since COVID, like
Mm,
before COVID, I was on it. COVID happened, and then I never really got back into it fully, like it being
mm,
integrated in my daily life. So I said this year, like I want to get back to it. Same thing with also like sponsoring events and having a booth at like events. Again, that
mhm.
was pre-COVID business, Lahana. So I'm like, this year I want to get back into it because I do miss making those connections. And I agree with you. Like, I love the networking events and meeting like lots of people, but I definitely will always go back in and like message people that I might have seen there that we didn't get to connect, and always ask to meet up for coffee because I love getting to know other industries and the women in it. And like what we talked about, being that like somewhat of a connector, even though it's not my complete like gift. I know that's my husband. He has such a gift for it, just like you. But I don't know, just
But
love
you're
making
doing
little
it.
introductions.
I
Yes.
think everyone has the gift of being able to connect, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's just repetition for effect. And maybe
Yeah.
sometimes it comes out weird and you're like, hey, like, let's connect on LinkedIn. But then you're like, oops, this is Instagram, like we fumble, whatever. But like the idea is to just like make the connection.
Yes, yes. So share with us your bedtime routine, especially like, yeah, after a networking event or a speaking gig, tell us what do you do to like get into that last half of the solitude sandwich?
Oh gosh. Yeah. So the daily 3-2-1 comes back that I mentioned earlier. So it's basically a power hour that you can use first thing in the morning or last thing at night. I prefer last thing at night because I like to be tech free before
Mm,
bed. And I also put my phone in the kitchen. And then my alarm is on my phone and I turn it up really high just to make sure I can hear it, shut my door, and there is not technology in my bedroom. Feng shui. I got all into feng shui when I first moved to Austin. And um yeah, but then back to the daily 3-2-1, it is 30 minutes of reading, 20
mm,
minutes of journaling, and 10 minutes of meditation. And,
love
there are studies that
that.
back up. It's like, yeah, it's pretty easy to remember, right? Like the average person reads 19 minutes a day. So it actually increases your lifespan. And I'm like, that's so wild
Wow.
that if you
Love that.
read more, you're more likely to be in better health. I think it's correlated with a lot of other like healthy factors. So yeah, 30 minutes a day. I'm like, I got that. I like
Oh, I'm
getting,
gonna live forever then.
uh, yeah. Are you reading anything right now?
Um, okay, yeah, I want to say, I'm listening
Mm.
to, I'm reading physically Outlive. I'm listening to something by Adam Grant. Is it Hidden
Oh, is it
Potential?
his new one? He has a new one, but I
Um,
forgot the name.
yes,
But yeah,
Hidden
there's
Potential, the science of
nice.
achieving greater things. So I'm
Mm.
listening to that on Audible. Yeah, those are my two books. I want to say that no, I don't have any fiction books I'm reading right now. Because I usually dial back on fiction when I'm in school, and then when I'm out of school, I'll amp that one back up.
Yeah, no, and I have an interesting routine with books too. I typically am reading one on my phone on a Kindle like app, and then one
Okay.
paperback because the paperback's before bed, and then the other
Yes.
one is when I'm out in the world. So right now, the one I'm reading out in the world is Noah Kogan's $1 Million Weekend, and
Ooh,
I'm like, hey, would not mind an extra million over the weekend, so let's go. And
writing that down.
and then the one that I'm is on my bedside right now is a book called Intuition by Mia Magic. And it's all about different yeah, like holistic modalities for personal empowerment and the earth elements. And yeah, it's kind of a fun read. And yeah, going back to the bedtime routine. So we have our 30 minutes of reading, and it
Yeah.
doesn't need to be done in this order. But then after that, there's 20 minutes of journaling, which I also call narrative therapy. So
Mm,
just, you know, every now and then, I know I can speak for myself, there can be ruminating thoughts where
yeah.
you're maybe trying to make sense of something that happened. Or, I mean, wouldn't it be great to just have ruminating thoughts of like the best things ever? But maybe it's not always like that. So it can be counterintuitive to give time, energy, and attention in writing to the
Mhm.
negative things. And I know in a lot of self growth, personal development circles, people say, no, just give a voice to the positive. And it's like, hold on.
No, toxic positivity.
I mean, that is, you're right. That is toxic positivity if you're not allowing yourself to acknowledge that you don't love every single thing that happens to you in your life.
Yeah.
But the idea is not to linger there. And how you don't linger there is by writing out wow, yeah, like, and because sometimes what happens when we replay things in our heads, it's because we are not totally clear on the narrative. We're like, wait, how do I feel about that? Like, oh, I
Yeah.
have a weird feeling. I'm pushing that to the side. But if you can go into it and get detailed about how the feeling feels and what the person did or said and the reaction that you had, and then after you fully acknowledge it and own it, then it gets to be a learning experience, because whenever we're triggered, we're basically being shown a discarded aspect of ourselves that we're
Mm,
not willing to own. Or, it's there's somewhat of a mirror in something that is causing a lot of discomfort in us, because I don't believe that anything is really inherently good or bad. Certainly, there are societal standards of like,
yeah.
things you do, things you don't do. But yeah, especially, I think, different people have different sorts of sensitivities to
Yeah.
different things in their lives. So to just be attuned to that and to not fall victim to it, but to be
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm going to get curious about that instead of brushing it under the rug. And, narrative therapy has been great for me to be able to really clearly identify what the storyline is, and then maybe even rewrite it so that, you get to be the hero of your story, and it can really make a difference. Um, and
I love
then
that.
the 10 minutes of meditation, there are studies actually that show that 12 minutes of meditation is kind of the tipping point. I mean, sure, you can go to a retreat and meditate for 10 hours a day. And then I remember I went to a Vipassana and they're like, and after this, we recommend that you only meditate for 2 hours a day. I was like, no, absolutely not. Not going to do that. So, you know, 10 to, and if you can manage 12 minutes in a day, actually is enough to give you a greater sense of clarity. If there's a sense of confusion, which can actually cause emotional distress, like it's just so empowering to have a sense of calm and clarity. Like that's at the root of a lot
Yeah.
of what I do, is instilling a sense of calm.
I love that. And I love how deep you went with the journaling. And I love that you call it narrative therapy because I feel like it was one of the things that I'm like, no way could this like make that much of a difference. Like it's just writing. And then I did it and then I experienced it and I'm like, oh, okay, this is why this is the good stuff. Because it does, it feels like therapy, even though you're talking to yourself, but it really
Mhm.
does help put everything in your head onto paper and you can, I don't know, you also start seeing things in a different light. And I agree with you. It's such a great underutilized tool because it's so simple, it's free. But it's such a great tool. So I love that you do that. Now I feel actually encouraged to like journal some tonight. I haven't journaled in a while and
Hey,
I'm like, ooh,
accountability. We
Now I
could
want
message, be like,
to.
hey, journaling tonight? Yes.
Yes. I love that. And so outside of your morning smoothie, what else are you eating in the day? Like what does your lunch look like? Your
Hmm.
dinner? You're in
Yeah.
Austin, so we have good food here too, but it is
Yeah.
just you. So like I know it's a little different from a mom who has a family of five. So what does that look like for you?
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. So I'm trying to think. I try to keep it varied, but some of my standbys, if I'm snacking, it's probably going to be on fruit or chocolate, really. But like, you
Okay.
know what I mean? Or both. Like, I believe in having chocolate every day. The kind that I really love is it's this brand called Guittard based in San Francisco, and they have a dark coconut sugar chocolate chip.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
There's no refined sugar, which I love, and there's because it's coconut sugar, there's a little bit of a softness. And
Oh,
yeah, there was a time when I was making my own chocolate bars. There's like really quick recipe with just cocoa powder, and you can use coconut oil or cocoa butter. And then what was the other thing? Oh my gosh, there's one more thing. I guess you'll
I've
have to look
also
it
just loved to have it. You made your own
up.
chocolate bar.
Yeah, no, but then there's nothing. Oh, honey, that was it. But I don't know. There's something like I was having fun for a while, kind of making those and then having like half a bar a day. Like it's pretty consistent. I will have it every day.
I love
And
that.
I try not to have it for like dessert at night all the time because there's caffeine
Yeah.
in
Are you
cocoa.
sensitive?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The other day I was at a cafe and they had this latte that sounded amazing. And I was like, oh yeah, let me try that. This like, oh my gosh, mocha with like pomegranate and raspberry. I was like, yes. And they were like, oh, we don't have decaf. And then I just took a breath and I was like, I'll try it. And I was
Living on the
shaken.
edge, girl.
No, I know I was going crazy because I really wanted it. And it tasted good, but I physically shake. Like that's with one coffee.
Oh
So
my
I know
gosh.
that I have decaf everything. I also am an avid tea drinker. So throughout the day, I'm drinking a combination of water or tea. Like I could do loose leaf. I love white rose. Numi white rose in particular is just
Ooh.
like so good. Oh my gosh.
I don't know if I've ever had that. I love tea too. So I don't think I've ever had that, but I'll have to write that
Yeah. And
down.
then a
What was the
yogurt
first word? You
parfait.
said newbie?
Numi.
Newbie.
Yeah, I used to work in CPG, consumer packaged goods. So I'm like, yeah, they're based in Petaluma. I'm like remembering, but California. But yeah, I love Forager cashew yogurt.
Oh yes.
Have you
Me
had
too.
that?
I have. It's good. It's really good.
I have it every day.
Oh, do you put your chocolate on it? Because that's my favorite thing. I
Yeah.
love putting chocolate in yogurt.
Yeah. So, okay. I always make it kind of like a dessert. Almost everything I have is a little bit like a dessert. And then usually by dinner time, I'm like, okay, enough. It's time to have savory food. But
Yes.
I'll put like a sprinkling of chocolate chips, or more likely these days, because I'm like, okay, the chocolate, even though it's unrefined sugar, it's still sugar. So I'll put cacao nibs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's still good. And then
Yeah.
I'll put goji berries, dried goji berries, and um, flax meal and hemp seed hearts
Oh.
and let's see, and chia
Chia
seeds.
seeds? Okay, I'm about to say that's what I
Yeah.
put. Wow, we have like the
And then
same concoction.
raspberries and then
Okay.
almond butter.
Okay.
And I might stop there or I could keep going, but usually that's where I stop.
I love that. Yeah, I have very similar concoction when it comes to
Mm,
yogurt, for sure. Definitely chocolate, chia seeds.
mhm,
Usually we'll top it with a little bit of raw honey too.
mm.
Berries or pomegranate seeds are my favorite if they're in season, and or I'll just buy them frozen. But yeah, that's pretty
Yeah, how
much
do you
my
master
go-to.
having them frozen? I literally have a bag, and whenever I thaw them, they're a little weird. And I've tried putting them in smoothies.
Really?
Maybe the Vitamix would be better because they didn't kind of all the way integrate into my smoothie.
Yes, the seeds. I
Yeah.
actually, my Vitamix, now that you mention it, but I also don't uh blend it for I think the right amount of
Mm,
time. I'm like, oh, it looks blended. Okay, and
okay.
it'd be done. But no, I definitely can still sometimes get the seeds afterwards. But I don't know, when you mix them in a yogurt, I'm okay that they're kind of melty. And I feel like they
Mm,
melt pretty quickly. So I don't know. I haven't had any issues with yogurt, but I definitely have had like the seed issue because I do hate drinking my smoothie and then I know I need to chew, even though sometimes I do chew, I guess, with a smoothie. But like when you have little pomegranate seeds, you absolutely
mhm.
have to chew.
Yeah.
It's kind of annoying when I don't
I
want
mean,
to.
it's a labor of love. And I just saw the other
Exactly.
day, people are taking the seeds out of their dates and grounding it up and making a coffee out of it.
What?
I know, it blew my mind. And I'm like, okay, I'm about to go buy some dates to test this out.
Okay, that's interesting. But I wonder how many
Yeah,
seeds you would need to like really make enough because a
I
date seed
know.
isn't that big.
And then I'm like, wait, what are we doing with the dates? Then are we putting them in the drink? Is it like a sweet drink? I don't know. But yeah, when it comes to
Oh,
frozen stuff, I actually really like frozen cherries, like the dark sweet
me too.
cherries, because oh my gosh, I'll thaw them out like, for over a few hours in the fridge. And I'll put that like yogurt on top. And it's better than fresh cherries, I think. I mean, fresh cherries are amazing, but it just like the
I
way that it
prefer
melts.
frozen. Yeah,
Yeah.
I prefer frozen. So I do love like the chocolate protein powder. I'm doing the Chuvani one now and it's so good.
Mm.
And then yeah, like kind of like a cherry chocolate shake. Yeah,
Mm.
I love that. Well,
Yeah, I've been
yeah.
doing Orgain.
Okay, yes, very familiar with that one too.
Yeah,
You'll have to try Chobani. I love the ingredients. It's so simple. And it's honestly one of the best flavors because like especially when it's vegan protein powder, you never really know what you're gonna get because some are
right.
chalky or whatever. Chobani's like
Hmm.
the smoothest one that I've tasted so far. I love
Oh,
trying different ones so I can kind of like compare and see how they are. So tell me, I know you shared the books that you are reading now, but in your entrepreneurial journey and
mhm.
self-help and also health, whichever, what books or podcasts or I don't know, whatever resource you look back and say, this book changed my life, or this podcast is like my absolute favorite for like self-development or whatnot. What comes to mind for you?
Yeah, so I would say for podcasts these days, um, I really enjoy so many podcast hosts. So Lewis Howes, The School of Greatness is a really good one. Mel Robbins always has some really great insights, no nonsense. And Sahara Rose, I've been liking her content recently. Um, Layla Martin has great energy. So, a lot of personal, professional growth, emphasis on personal growth, I would say. Um, you know, it's one of those things. I do believe that personal growth is the foundation for professional growth and vice versa. They really work well together. And it's like if you have one, it's not worth it without the other. It's like bring them
Yeah.
both with you, even
Yeah.
though we may be more, attuned to one than the other at different stages of life. Like I always have them pretty top of mind. And when it comes to books that really stand out to me, The Untethered Soul by Steven
Oh,
Singer is
okay.
is such a classic mindset book. He talks a lot about observing your thoughts instead of identifying with them, because how often, especially for those of us that are a little more on the introverted side, used to hanging out with our thoughts, we can really associate with them to the point of like our thoughts are us. When
Wow.
in recent years, I'm actually a hypnotherapist. That's one of my certifications.
Fun.
And yeah, it's just been so fascinating to bring it full circle where if we're able to take a step back and identify, wait, that thought, is that actually something that I internalized? Someone said it, maybe even well meaning, but I made it mean this. And now it's on repeat in the back of my mind, keeping me from doing certain things, being certain things. Um, reaching your potential. So I think it's such an empowering move to be able to make the distinction between, okay, what thoughts am I going to claim as my own and which
Mhm.
ones am I going to reframe or take steps to replace with something that's more empowered.
I love that. Okay, well, who is the author? I wrote Untethered Soul, but
Michael Singer.
okay. I'm gonna put all these in the show notes. That's great. That's so true. And I don't know, I think life gets so busy. You don't really you just have the thought and then you just keep moving. But I really love the idea of really sitting with that and yeah, not creating that as like your identity. I love that. And it really all just comes back to like slowing down, I think too. Like whether it's journaling or actually sitting with your thoughts and like thinking things through. I don't know. I just think sometimes we just need to slow down. And I feel like that would honestly give results in many aspects of like our health, our mental health, like everything. Because we are, so go, go, go. And we have so many things we want to achieve in life and not enough time in the day and
Mm.
not enough days in the week to like get it done. But we got to remind ourselves to slow down because I feel like, yes, that's where a lot of the personal growth happens is when you do that and don't just push through it. You're actually sitting with it, assessing it, moving through it. So I love that. That's been kind of the theme of our conversation. Where can we support you? We appreciate all the time you spent with us. So where can we support you? Where can we find you? Where can we get your book?
Hey, yes. So you can find Confident Introvert on Amazon. You can also head over to stephaniethoma.com/free gifts and pick whatever freebie you want to stay connected and get a freebie. So your audience might be interested, since we're talking about Confident Introvert, a free chapter of the book. So that's going to be just listed pretty easily on the website. And then Stephanie M. Thoma is my handle pretty much everywhere. So if you want to find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, and all that good stuff.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. This is so fun.